Hello and welcome back, everybody. This is Keith here from For the Love of Guitars, and I am joined once again by the one, the only, the Ubie. How's it going, Ubie?
Hey, how you doing? It's good to see you.
Been doing pretty good. Just been keeping as busy as possible. So, pardon me if I am looking this way. I have my screen over here with the chat. So if you see me glance over that way, then that's what I'm looking at, the chat. So, just want to acknowledge. Thank you, Chris, for showing up. BCG, Time Surfing Alien, and Robbie F are all in the chat. So I'm glad to see you here on a Saturday afternoon. Saturday afternoon, yes, I am in Kansas City, Missouri, a suburb of Kansas City, Missouri. So it's Central Time for us here, and I believe you're in Iowa, right? Right, Ubi?
That's right. Central Iowa. We're about a stone's throw away from each other, as they would say.
Yeah, Iowa. I've been up to Iowa one time, and I remember passing through there. There was a bunch of windmills and a lot of cornfields.
That's what we have. They ain't got what we've got, corn, which is actually a song from the Animaniacs about Iowa.
I used to love Animaniacs when I was a kid. You were probably a teenager when that was coming out. I was getting close to there. It's mid '90s.
Yeah, somewhere in that neighborhood,
Yeah.
somewhere there, somewhere around there.
Oh yeah, they're really good songs. But we're not here to talk about Animaniacs. We're here to talk about guitars and the like. So, do you want to just jump into the main topic, or do you have anything you wanted to say before we get started?
Nah, just jump right in. Let's get started.
It's good. All right. Well, thank you. So basically, the question that I wanted to talk today about was it came up from Searching from Tone's channel, and he had a poll of the week. He has a poll of the week on every one of his live streams, and one of them was, what is the most important thing to you on a guitar? You know, he gave you different options. One was, is it the neck? Is it the pickups? Is it the body shape? Is it something else? So there was a bunch of different opinions out there. I think a lot of people that ran on his poll, the consensus was the neck and the feel of the neck. I'm not sure if I agree with that. I don't have a solid 100% opinion on it and I'll discuss it. But I'd like to open the floor to you, Ubi. What did you pick, and what do you think?
Yeah, it was overwhelming. It was more than 90% people picked the neck. And I understand why, because that's actually what I boiled it down to. I mean, I always comment on them to give more of a insight to what I pick.
Mm-hmm.
So the way I look at it is this: the you have the your the of the three main things that he put in there, which was the neck, the body, and the pickups. He also put an other in there, but that becomes nebulous at that point. But of the three that's there, to me, the neck, if I had to pick one, the
Mm-hmm.
neck is the most important because it is where the majority of the tactile feel of playing a guitar comes from. And to me, I can't get a good tone out of a guitar if it doesn't feel good to me.
Right.
Because yes, everything, the whole sum of the parts makes your tone,
Right.
from the guitar itself to your fingers to how you play to the pickups to the cables you use to
Mm-hmm.
go to whatever you're plugging into and whatever you're plugging into. The tone comes from all that, but it starts with what you play, because until you play it, the tone doesn't exist. And if it doesn't feel good for me to play, then I tend not to play as good as I possibly could. So while looks are important and body shape is important, so pickups are also really important. Pickups are really easy to change in a guitar,
Mm-hmm.
and body shapes are, I mean, I don't want to say we're super limited, but we're kind of limited
Yep.
in the array of body shapes we have. So to me, if I had to pick the most important, singular most important, it's got to be the neck.
It's got to be the neck. And I don't know. You know, I kind of struggle with that question. What's the most important thing? The first thing I tended to lean towards for myself was the neck. You know, you're right. It has to feel good in order to play it. Um, and I think it's worth separating electric guitars from acoustic guitars because
Oh yeah.
if we're gonna stick with, and we'll just stick with the electric guitars for now, because I do want to talk a little bit about the acoustic guitars and what's more important there, because I have what I feel is a different opinion on both of those. But for the electric guitar, my first inclination was like you. I thought about the neck, but you know, you, I voted for pickups. That's what I voted for. When I'm looking for a guitar, I'm mainly looking when I'm looking for a new guitar. Let me put it that way. I'm looking for a sound, right? I'm not looking for the way it feels right off the bat. So if I'm looking for an electric guitar, I said I've only had for the longest time single coils, right? I had a Strat, which is inherent with single coils, right? And I know you can get different configurations, HSS, but I roll traditional typically with my guitars. So I had a Strat single coils and I had a Telly, and for very up until very recently, that's all I had, and that was just nothing but single coil guitars. Couldn't put humbuckers in them, and all that. So I mean, I think kind of pickups and body kind of plays hand in hand with each other, because you can't really, unless you're taking a router to your guitar and maybe messing it up or whatever, you're not going to be able to put humbuckers or whatever. You might be able to get away with the single coil humbucker things. I've seen those, but you know I wanted humbuckers for the longest time to get that different sound. So to me, in my search for a new guitar, which I'm lucky that I got, the Diamond that I won it from Fret Not, so shout out to them, came with Seymour Duncan uh, humbuckers, right? So
Yeah.
that's the first thing I wanted, and that was the first thing, and then everything else was secondary to me. It's the tone of an electric guitar, in my opinion, is the heart of the guitar. It it's the heart. I consider the fretboard maybe on an electric guitar in the neck more of a hand or an arm. If we're gonna use the analogy, the heart and the arm, right? It has to have a good heartbeat and it has to sound good. I don't want a guitar with crappy pickups. I know we could switch those out. And I mean, if you think about it, you could probably switch out, if it's a bolt-on neck, you could switch out necks too, but it's not always the case. But what good are really good pickups if you don't feel comfortable playing it? So it's kind of a catch 22. And if you don't feel comfortable playing it, then what are you gonna do? You know.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
exactly. And yeah.
go ahead, Obi.
Well, yeah, for me, and I agree with the see, it's a very difficult one, especially on electric, is that because, like I said, it is a combination of everything that makes your tone from it. So it's not like it could be anything you want,
Right.
that just any old pickups, it doesn't matter. As long as I got like an Ibanez Wizard neck, it's going to sound great. No, it's going to sound like crap if you've got single coils that are wound like crap with
Mm-hmm.
really crappy wire. That's just going to happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, for sure, and I totally can get being the pickups maybe being something that somebody thinks is the most important
Uh-huh.
thing, and really it boils down to, as our buddy Ted says, it boils down to player's preference on
Yeah.
that, because for some people the pickups, if you have good enough pickups, you can play on a neck that you're not as comfortable with and have a good sound, and you're okay with that. So it really does come down to the player's preference in that particular bit. And you were talking about taking a router to it. I mean, if you do need a router, you've got Brant who just joined us in the chat down there. So he's got a Dremel and he will travel.
Well, I don't like to give Brant that much. Sorry, my wife text was trying to call me, and you can't ignore that. But
Nope.
I just said I'm on my stream. But yeah, I don't you can. I don't like to give Brant too much trouble on that, because I would have done the same thing had I been in his place with the Dremel, because I don't. When I jump into a project, I don't know what I'm doing at first. I usually mess up first and then go back and watch a YouTube video, and I'm like, oh, I should have done it
Yep.
that way. Um, I mean, I wish I had a Dremel myself, because I try to install. I This is a complete tangent, and I apologize, but I try to fix my water spigot outside, and I ended up stripping the screw, and I'm like, well, the only way to unstrip it,
Oh,
yeah, is to take a Dremel to it,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
whatever. We all make mistakes. But yeah, I get what you're saying. If it doesn't feel good, I mean, and that is to the point of tone being in the fingers. You're gonna play better if you have a better feeling neck, and I think it. If you just can't play the guitar, it doesn't matter what pickups are in it, and I agree with that. And that's where setup comes into play. And I see you have
Oh, yes.
your T's right there, which is known for their impeccable setup for a budget guitar, right?
Well, yeah. What I was actually looking at, I was looking at the difference in the necks between the T's and the Squire Debut behind me. And the Squire Debu's neck is actually a touch thinner than the T's neck. And I think, I'll be honest, if I had the skill and the tools and the time to work the fret ends on the debut, I think it would actually have a better neck than the T's, even though I prefer a maple fretboard over a rosewood fretboard, because that neck shape profile is getting near, as I joked about the wizard neck, it's actually getting kind of close to the wizard neck profile on a telly, which was it blows my mind. I really wasn't thinking about it until I played. I had actually played both of them, tuned them both up
Mm-hmm.
before we played here, and I was when you said that, and I was thinking about, it, I was like, man, I think that neck is thinner.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry, go
No, but
on.
that's fine. I mean, I agree with you. We could talk about guitar necks, but Robbie F in the comments just said he believes in the kind of pickup du jour, pickup of the day, one of each group, which is what I'm kind of going for. It's in the end, it's all a sum of its parts type of deal. You have to have a good neck and good pickups, and it kind of seems like body shape is more secondary or tertiary. In this example, yeah, unless it does play a factor. If you're a home guitarist, you're probably not going to be comfortable playing a Flying V or a Gibson Explorer, right? Because you're going to be sitting down most of the time. So you're not going to, even
Yeah,
though it probably has badass humbuckers or P90s or anything like that, you're not going to get one of those to play. It'll look good on the wall. Um, but yeah, it's more of a tertiary thing there. Um, at least that's the way I feel. I mean, there's probably other opinions on that, but I agree with what Robbie F said. That's why, I hated the fact that I was just stuck with just single coils, right? And so the next step in my journey would be to get something with P90s in it. So,
yeah, same here. I don't have anything with P90s in it either. I've got the two tellies. Both of them have single coils, although the T's does have the hot rails
mm-hmm.
in the bridge. And then, of course, I've got the Reaper, which has boutique humbuckers in it. So those are great. But yeah, I'd love to have something with P90 in it. But talking about necks, though, I can tell you this much: if I pick up that Grote over there, it feels like I'm holding a baseball bat. I mean,
Oh yeah,
the Grote has a thicker neck than my Kona back here does.
yeah.
So, and it just feels uncomfortable for me to play.
I mean, it. I've always been like, it's a funny thing. I'm glad that you brought that up. The neck profiles and neck shapes. I've always kind of felt personally that I could just pick up any guitar, and if it doesn't feel comfortable right away, I could, you know, adapt pretty quick to it. I never put much, I for the longest time I've only had my Squire Strat, and that thing has a baseball back neck. So I thought that I was just, my preference was always like a big chunky thick neck because I have bigger hands, I guess, or long fingers is what I have. So I liked that because that's all I knew, and I played a lot of acoustic guitars. So I tended to think that. Then my Telly has a thinner profile, and even my acoustic, my Martin, I have a D15, and that neck on that feels so much thinner. It feels closer to my Telecaster neck, and I love it. So I think my opinion there changed between the two. But yeah, it does take a little bit of getting used to, the thickness of the neck and even a nut width, right? Because you don't the spacing of the strings. If you have, your fingers
Hmm.
can't really all fit closer to the nut already, then you're gonna run into issues playing down there. So, um,
Yeah, for sure. And actually, I'll tell you what, that the Kona back here is, it's a thin body acoustic electric, and it actually has a thinner neck. So I own the first acoustic I had before it was a Yamaha, which is a really good acoustic, but it was basically like a mariachi sized
uh huh,
acoustic. We're talking those big, massive
yeah,
things,
you just
and it had a yeah. And I was, I
yeah,
was all up and over it. And but that's actually what I very first learned on, because my best friend in high school got one, and he was in the band, and he played cornet, I think,
hmm
trumpet or cornet, one of those two, one of the brass. Um, and his parents got him a guitar, and he just never played it. So he brought it over one day and had left it at my place, and I acquired it basically at that point.
uh huh,
It never went home, and that's where my guitar journey started. But it was that big, thick, massive hunk of wood,
yeah,
and I didn't understand anything. My first real electric, I got an electric between that one and my first real electric, was one of those department store. guitar-shaped objects,
Yeah.
which is what we would call it. It's not an actual guitar. But my first electric ended up being an Ibanez RG 550. So my first electric was one of those Wizard necks, the Wizard 2 necks specifically.
So is that a thinner
And
profile
it,
or?
yeah, oh, it's almost to the point where you're almost afraid you're going to break it. That's how
Yeah.
thin it is. But it was such a complete difference from where I was at.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean and it's amazing actually, especially if you're only used to a certain style of neck and you haven't played on other necks, you don't really understand the difference of having a different neck,
A hundred
um,
percent.
of what it
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
I 100% agree with you there. I mean, just I want to back up and talk a little bit about some of the comments here. Tim, Baby Boy Mulligan, hopped on. He said that he has some P90s, and what does he say? My opinions have changed over the years. Before I could work on guitars, it had to be what I was looking for. I guess he was talking about. Now it's the neck. Oh, okay. He was
Whether
talking
the
about.
pickups were the right or
Yeah.
not.
He says now it's the neck and then the body for him. He could swap everything else out. Yeah, it's a fair point. He says he has a Squire Carbonita semi hollow with P90s. And Robbie also talked about semi hollows. See, this is the problem with guitars. Just when you think you have everything you want, somebody says something. It's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Now I want a semi hollow. So down the line, but
I've got a Gretchen pieces sitting over there, if you, or not a Gretchen, but a Grote in pieces over there, semi hollow. If you want it, I'll ship you the pieces and you can put it back together.
oh my god,
I'm kidding.
yeah, send it to.
I got to finish that build.
Send it to somebody that knows how to fix. I can't put that. If I put that thing together, it'll be like a first stack guitar. So it would not be playable. But yeah, you're right. To your point, you don't know what you're missing. Like, and this is what I wanted and to talk about the Martin guitar and that neck because it'll transition us to the acoustic thing. But for the longest time, I rolled with just two guitars. I rolled with a Hohner. The Hohner makes harmonicas, marine band harmonicas. That's what
Hmm.
they're known
Hmm.
for. They also made some pretty
Yep.
decent, entry level guitars, and that was my kind of first real guitar. My first guitar, my mom back in the '90s, I said I wanted a guitar. She went on QVC and bought a guitar. It wasn't an Esteban guitar. It wasn't, but it was a bad guitar. It was bad enough to where what is it? 12 or 13-year-old me was like, this thing sucks. So we shipped it back and we went to a local shop. This is in North Carolina, and we got a Hohner. I think it was like $120, but that's in the mid '90s, so that wasn't a horrible price. I still have it, and then the Squire that I had. That's the what I had for the very longest time. So I didn't, and they were both chunky necks, right? So when I finally got my Martin, and I've had several other acoustics and guitars since then, but when I got my Martin, a quality guitar, you're jumping from $200-300 guitars to Martin. That's
Yeah.
it, you know what I'm saying. Um, that neck on there, I did not know what I was missing on an acoustic guitar until I put my hand on that thing. It was unbelievable. It's just like, how the hell? Why was I playing these other guitars with? It just once I played the Martin, I couldn't go back. The thing was freaking perfect, and it had more, like you said, a thinner neck, probably like your Kona. I don't know, because everything else I have is
Probably pretty
just
similar.
really thick. I mean,
Yeah.
I can go grab my. Sorry. This is not a Martin. This is a Sigma Martin, which it's funny because it says Martin and Company on the inside because Martin used to make these Sigmas. This was like the cheap version.
Right.
But you can see the neck is pretty chunky.
Yeah.
It's typical dreadnought. I love dreadnought guitars. That's my bread and butter. But the Martin, I'm not going to take it out because it's in the case, but it has a thinner neck. You've probably seen it on some of my videos. But yeah, that thing it just completely rocks. But like as far as acoustic guitars, I mean, if we're changing subjects, which I want to change subjects to that, what is the most important part on an acoustic guitar? And before you answer that question, I mean, we could say neck. And I think nut width is a bigger issue with acoustics. Tone wood, and body shape. Those are the four. So, what would be your opinion there?
Yeah, for me on the acoustic, it's going to be the body shape. For a combination of both comfortable playing of it, for me, the neck is less important. but also the tone. Just simply because the dreadnought shape, I'm with you. That's my preferred shape on an acoustic. It seems to really get a better resonant middle,
Mm-hmm.
and can actually really project the lows, which is something that if you don't have that, that's one of the things to me that really sets an acoustic apart is its low end.
Mm-hmm.
That it flavors the sound in the acoustic sound that's so importantly. So for me, it's got to be that body shape, because to me it seems to really give the most resonant of those. After that, then probably the tone wood itself, but the body shape for both but the comfort factor, especially a dreadnought with a cutaway,
Yeah,
and the shape. Yeah.
100%. I'm not gonna argue there. I would put that exactly in that same order. It's the body shape, and it's the tone wood. And for me, the body shape. Yeah, I'm at home with a dreadnought. That's what I've always had. I had other guitars, but always go back to the dreadnought. Um, you're talking about the low end, right? And this is why I love Martin guitars so much. I mean, it's not a secret. I freaking love Neil Young. I love him more so as an acoustic guitar player. He is a very underrated acoustic guitar player. He's known to play Martins, and in my opinion, pound for pound, the best recorded acoustic guitar in a live setting was his concert live at Massey Hall in Massey Hall. That's in Canada. I think it came out in like the late '60s. It was right before Harvest came out. With Heart of Gold and all that. That's where he was playing all those songs live before that album released. The tone on that recording, and he had mics on him, but he also had what was called the frap system. Um, it's like a because oh gosh, we can talk about acoustic guitar pickups, which that's a wormhole, and I want to talk about that. It's a good subject, but he had a probably the best pickup system in his guitar. Frap is what it was called. You could look it up. They don't make it anymore. It sounds like it's basically what you would want in an acoustic guitar sound pickup. It sounds like an acoustic guitar. It doesn't sound like a piezo or piezo, however you say it. And that low end that you're speaking of, Martin Dreadnought, he played a D28 and a D45, both of which are completely out of most people's price range, especially that
Yeah.
45. Dude, that 45, you know how he got that?
No.
Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young, right? I think it was. I forgot who it was. Which one was the guy from the Birds that was in there? Is it? Was it the? I don't know. Well, one of the guys from the Birds that was in Crosby was Stills Nash. Crosby, Stills, Nash. Was it Crosby was in the Birds?
I honestly don't remember.
Okay. Either way, he bought everybody D45s in that band. Those are that was in the '70s. Those are $15,000 guitars back then.
Yeah, somewhere in the neighborhood. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's back then. No wonder those recordings sounded so awesome because he's playing a freaking $15,000 guitar back then. But that's what he played. The D45 and the D28. Love that sound. Out of my price range. You have the spruce top, rosewood back and sides. Talking about tone wood. That is the definition of what an acoustic guitar should sound like to me. I mean, it's a standard. The D18 is the standard, right, of acoustic guitar sound. At least that's what a lot of people say. I ended up with the D15, which is all mahogany and sapele back and sides, which is a different sound, because it was what I could afford from a Martin.
Right. Yeah.
It's probably
Yeah.
the cheaper end. I mean, there's no way I can afford a D. I want a D28, but I get a good sound from that cheap guitar. But yeah, this has got to be the tone wood. I mean, tone wood matters in acoustic guitars. Arguable. I mean, with electrics, I'm neither here nor there. I don't have a fight or anything in that battle there. I think Ted put it best. He doesn't. He thinks it's all. Ted from Ted Talks Guitars. He was like, it doesn't matter to him. I agree with him. I mean, do you agree with that?
Yeah. So for an acoustic, the tone would play such an important part because it actually is the resonant vibrations that you're hearing of the sound, and the woods, the relative hardness of the wood and the properties of the wood, they shape that sound. For a guitar though, the vibrations that the wood give is very minimum for how it flavors your tone. It's
Yeah.
all about how those strings are vibrating across those magnets to give you your tone. So does it make a difference? Yeah. Is it the type of a difference that you can tell like immediately, like, oh yeah, that's being played off a mahogany
Yep.
body, or that's being played off a poplar body? No, you couldn't. I
Yep.
guarantee if I did tone samples for every guitar I had in here without you seeing the guitar, you may be able to go, okay, that's got to be the Reaper because that sounds like humbuckers, but you wouldn't be able to tell any of the rest of the guitars
Yeah,
at all.
I think a big thing with that, with electric guitars especially, it makes a difference. The tone wood makes a difference in weight because depending on the guitar you have, it's going to be heavier or lighter, and that's going to affect the tone because you're going to be either straining to hold it up or not. But yeah, to me, it doesn't mean anything. Um, not, it means less. I mean, I got my freaking Telecaster's an ash body, and they must not have let it dry out because that thing is pretty heavy for a Telecaster.
Mm.
Because whenever I
Well, see, like the
yeah.
Reaper, the Reaper's a solid mahogany body, and I can the combination of the pickups, which I think are the bigger part for it, but also the body. I do feel the thicker mid that comes out of that guitar when I
Mm-hmm.
play it. I before I owned this guitar, I would have said anybody who says that is trying to justify buying a more expensive guitar. Then I've had one and play it and I go, all right, this isn't pronounced, but I can feel the difference when I listen back to it. I can hear the difference.
Yeah, it's important. Robbie mentioned in the chat, yeah, it actually was Stephen. Hold on, was it Stephen? Stephen Stills played with Neil Young in Buffalo Springfield, and David Crosby played with the Byrds. And I think from what I read, David Crosby was the one that gave everybody those D45s. Um, so, what a hell of a present to get from one of your friends.
Well, when you're selling the records and making the dates where they're selling out the venues they're selling out, you have the money to be able to do that for your friends.
Yeah. Um, which I guess, man, there's so many tangents here because he brings up. I could talk all day about Neil Young because he says that Buffalo Springfield and the Birds and Crosby, Stills and Nash, he grew up on it and he loved it. The funny thing about Buffalo Springfield is because I have a biography about Neil Young that I read. It's called Shaky. I would recommend anybody listen to that or watch that or listen to it if you have an audiobook version of it. But they wouldn't let him sing. They would not let Neil Young sing his songs as much in Buffalo Springfield. I mean, you know the famous song with them, "You Better Stop." Hey, what's that sound? Everybody.
Yep.
Neil Young wrote that song. For what it's worth is what it's called, and he's not singing it. Which he's a big inspiration to me because of the singing thing. I don't have a good singing voice, but if Neil Young could do it, and uh, he doesn't have the greatest singing voice, but he's an icon, and as a result, yeah, he's synonymous with rock and roll, right? Same thing with John Lennon. He hated his own voice, but I don't know. This just brings up all that stuff to me. But what were we? You were talking about the. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have a dog in that battle as far as tone wood with electric guitars. I'm neither here nor there with it. I get what I get, and I don't throw a fit. you know.
Well, but the going back to the weight thing, weight doesn't really. I don't obviously the weight doesn't affect the tone, but it actually will affect your personal playing
Yeah,
of a
that's what I was
guitar.
saying. Yeah.
So in that, like I said, the Reaper is she's thick. We'll just put it that way. And it doesn't the weight for the Reaper doesn't bother me because I do play seated, so it's in my lap.
Yeah.
If I was standing, my back would probably hate it. But I will say this: the guitar, because of its heavier weight, the way I play seated actually makes the guitar feel more solid and stable in my hands. So I don't. I know subconsciously I may be gripping a little too hard when I'm playing the lighter
Mm-hmm.
guitars. because I'm afraid, because I'm worried about them shifting slightly, so then my fingering's off and those
Right.
sort of things. I set the Reaper in my lap, and it's gonna be where I set it in my
Hmm.
lap. It's not moving anywhere unless I, drop it on the floor, which heaven forbid that we do that to Celeste.
Oh my gosh! Like I put that in one of my early videos about dropping guitars. It's amazing how often I drop my guitar, and it's amazing how often beginners drop their guitars and just bang that thing around because it's a big object, and they typically are not careful with it. Carrying an acoustic guitar, for example, into a different room, hitting the threshold in the door or whatever, that door
Yeah.
jamb. It's kids. That's why you have to get beginners. It doesn't matter what age they are. Cheap guitars to begin with because they're going to be banging that thing around.
Yes.
A
Oh yeah,
hundred
your first
percent.
guitar will be beaten to absolute hell.
Like I've had my Martin for about a year and a half now. It sleeps in his case, and it's never been dinged, dropped, scratched, or anything like that. And for the most part, all my other guitars, because I'm super, you just become. It's like an appendage that you have to get used to, and when you do, you're very mindful of it because they cost money, and we don't make a lot of money to replace them.
No,
So
no, that's for sure. But I've also done the whole. I've waffled back and forth between being super careful and being less careful with the guitars. Um, and I've come kind of to the conclusion of I'm not a fan of pre-relic guitars, but I am a fan of guitars that have relicing that is earned from actual dings and things that have happened to them. So because of that, I used to be super duper careful, and now I'm like, I'm careful. I'm not going to launch it across the room to land on the bed or the couch or something, but I'm also not quite as worried when if I ding it up against the wall when I'm playing or that sort of stuff, and just a
yeah.
light little tapper here and there. I'm,
Oh,
I'm not as
that.
worried about that as I used to be.
Oh, jeez, dude. Dinging those little things are fine. Like for the longest time with my electric guitars, and I'll show you. The cheap nylon whatever guitar straps. They would just pop off my guitar and completely nosedive or butt dive into the ground. I'm gonna go grab.
These?
Are those locked? Yeah, those.
No, this is
Hold on.
this is a
Yeah.
cheap polyester strap.
Give
This is yeah. I mean, searching for tone, man. He hooked me up with two of them.
give me 1 second. I'll be right back.
Sure, sure. As we watch the majestic Sean in his natural habitat,
Okay.
retrieving his guitar-shaped object. There we go.
Let me show you here. I got some. Oh, you see this?
Yep, that's a good one.
That is bare bone right there. That is from the strap coming off and just
And then just falling
on the ground.
straight down.
Just a chunk. That's all. It went through all the finish. It went through everything. So what I ended up doing was buying one of these locking. It's a leather little deal here. You just put your strap in there, and then you put this over the top, locks it in. Never had the issue again. Plus, I spent $60 on a leather strap because I wasn't gonna have that happen to any more of my guitars. But it's a battle scar.
It is, yeah, and it's so we have this issue of these are instruments, and these are supposed to be, even if you're buying a budget level one, it's supposed to be a fine instrument that reflects the ability for you to create music.
Mm-hmm.
So you have that innate feeling of I should be careful with this. This is a precision instrument, even if it's not a
Mm-hmm.
precision instrument. It's more of a precision instrument than if you didn't have one. But on the other hand, we are, depending on the style of music you play, and I don't know of almost any styles of music that doesn't have some sort of energy into it. We're musicians. We are creator of art that is a kinetic art, that is a moving and a
Mm-hmm.
physical art. And because of that, we will be moving and we will be physically
Yeah.
going about the process of the creation. And that is going to lead towards your instrument being in motion, and things that are in motion are going to collide with
Hmm.
things. And you can't. I mean, one of my problems as a guitarist is playing timid. Like, I don't know if I can play this, so I'm going to be very timid. You can't. You got to attack the
Yeah.
piece that you're playing. And if you're playing a piece that is particularly energetic, it's going to happen
Yeah.
at some point in
Yeah.
time. And if it doesn't happen, you're not being a guitarist, to be honest.
Yeah. It's a wear and tear thing. It's like when you buy a new car, the first you buy a new car. If anybody has that experience, you're going to the grocery store. You're not parking in the front. You're parking in the back, away from every other car. As soon as you get
Yeah.
that first scratch, that's the worst. Rod Stewart said it best:
Mhm.
first cut's the deepest. Is that what he said?
Yep.
After that, everything is all fine. Then you're parking in the front and getting between next to all the shopping carts. But it happens. It's just
Yeah.
it's a tool, right? A car's a tool. It's not gonna be pristine. You plan on buying a. I'm buying a new car. I'm gonna plan on driving that thing to the ground 20 years. 200,000 miles. It's gonna get wear and tear.
Yeah.
Same thing with that guitar. And but the thing is with guitars and cars, the thing that makes a difference is cars will break down and you have to get a new one. Guitars get better. You know.
Yeah. I mean, and also think about some of your most beloved artists, your most beloved guitarists. They have some of the most worn and
Oh
travel
yeah.
used and beat up guitars that you could ever
What's
see. And
Van
when they
Halen's
pull that
name?
particular guitar out,
What is it?
you know,
EVH's?
yeah, they've got the Frankenstrap. But think about number one from Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Yep.
How beat up that guitar
Oh
is,
my
for
God! Did
example.
you seen him at Macombo, right? We talked about that last a couple weeks ago. He's on top of that guitar, just like banging it on the ground. I mean, I wouldn't do that,
Exactly.
but it's
And think,
performance.
Jimmy's guitars were not pristine. The Hendrix guitars just as beat because they're used. They're literally battle worn and battle tested instruments that they take
Yep.
on stage night after night after night, and then they take them in the studio and record with it. Um, yeah, I mean, and then you've got obviously you're an acoustic fan. You've got Trigger, Willie Nelson's
Yep.
guitar, which is held together by good wishes and desperation.
Oh my God!
So
There was a video out there a couple years ago about the where he sends Trigger to get fixed. I didn't watch it. It was on my watch later. I haven't gotten around to it, but I need to watch it. That thing, yeah, it's completely beat up. But that's what people pay for with the relicing thing, and I think you hit on that. If not a couple weeks ago, we talked about it before, where you prefer earned relicing, not
mhm.
artificial relicing, which is valid. I've never played custom shop, artificially relic. I don't have an opinion on it. I mean, I do have an opinion. I think it's my first opinion on it. Stupid, right? Why would you pay for that? It's like buying jeans with holes in it, pre-made holes. You got to earn those holes. But the more I think about it, I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, it just feels better," and it's getting that broken in baseball glove, right? You don't have to. It's pre-broken in. I understand, but that's what I was mentioning though. With age, they get better. If that earned
Mhm.
relicing happens, it's gonna sound. The pickups aren't gonna change. They might get worse if you filing down nuts and let metal get on it or whatever. But I don't know. It takes time. They get better. There's gonna be maintenance depending on how often you play it. If you don't have stainless steel frets, you're gonna have to get a refret every now and then. Maybe once in the guitar's life.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. But the other thing is that even with that guitar that you just showed in that spot that was damaged there, that guitar now has a story. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not like it didn't have a story and a history before, but it has a piece of history that you will bring out to somebody. You see this here? Well, we were playing and dot dot dot. So that to me that's the value of a relic,
Yeah. Well, that
relicing on a guitar.
that that bump or that crack or whatever you want to call it, the gigantic hole in my guitar. It was what we just talked about. That was when I first got the guitar, and I was just banging it around. I didn't know what I was doing, and I had the cheap straps, and that was my lesson learned. It's like, yeah, I could show
Mhm.
it to people maybe on my next video. This is what happens if you have bad straps. You're gonna drop your guitar. Um, I mean, but look, you have to be careful with acoustic guitars. Those things will. There's so much maintenance that goes into those. You can't you can't drop because a guitar the same way you could drop an electric guitar.
No,
You
no,
could
not at
toss a
all.
Telecaster down 2 flights of stairs and it'll still work. You could drop
Yeah,
a same acoustic guitar, the acoustic guitar be in pieces. You got to treat that thing nicely, which is why I keep my Martin in the case. Because yeah, you get so worried about humidity, and you know I got a barometer in my room back here. What am I gonna do? I'm not gonna buy a humidifier for this one room, so I'll just keep it in the case. But I don't know. There's a lot that goes into that stuff, but you know, and then we live in Midwest climates where it's super dry in the winter and super, you know, mid in the summer and spring and all that. You know, we have the wet seasons and whatnot. But
yeah.
just want to acknowledge a couple people here in the chat. Um, so Robbie has said he discovered that Mike Ness and Social D all use the same cheap poly Ernie ball straps that he uses. Okay, so that's what we were just talking about, including the same rubber washers to keep them off. So to keep them from coming off. I have nothing against those straps. I like those straps. They're a little cheaper. They're not as comfortable if you're playing live, but you know, there you go. Social D uses them and they play live all the time. But I don't know. At the time when I bought that expensive guitar strap, I had no other option, or I didn't know any better. But it's really comfortable. Um, but yeah, as long as you get some kind of strap lock on there, like Robbie was talking about, that'll do the trick. I didn't know anything about strap locks back in the day. So Patrick Shannon, thank you for joining us, Patrick. He says Schecter guitars are the best guitar I've played. He said $3,000 guitars that weren't as good. Oh, he's played $3,000 guitars that weren't as good as his Schecter. Yeah. What's the name of that band? That oh gosh, what's his name? It's a newer like neo metal type of band. I'm not into them, but their main guitarist plays a Schecter. I gotta look it up now. Um, Patrick, if you're
I've
on,
heard a lot of good. Go
yeah,
ahead and go ahead and look it up. I've heard a lot of good things. I'll talk while you look it up. I've heard a lot of good things about Schecter, and I've played one over at the Guitar Center across the road from me, and it feels really good. They definitely seem to have good build quality, which of course at the prices, not that their low end um, items aren't quite entry level, but they do have some cheaper offerings. But yeah, once you get up into things like the Demon, the Omen's a really good line as well. I played an Omen, and they're pretty good as well. The and there's a lot of companies like that that create really good guitars that give the higher end big names a run for their money for sure. And we have a couple of smaller makers like that, and then obviously you've always got boutique, which you can go to. Like for example, the Scarred Reaper I have. I think it would I would put it up against any Les Paul style out there that you could muster, and it would hold its own.
right. I then I'm not gonna figure out this guy's name, but it's a he's like a Joe Satriani type, you know, or Steve Vai type. Really freaking good. I forget his name, but he's in like a metal band that's out. Doesn't matter. My buddy of mine bought a Schecter because of that band. Yeah, they're really nice guitars. I don't they have active pickups in a lot of those. I'm not sure. I've never had anything with active
Um,
pickups, but
So band wise, are you talking about maybe somebody from Avenged Sevenfold or maybe Black Veil Brides,
no,
Arch Enemy maybe?
I can't think of them. Um, it's gonna be impossible. I'll remember it right after this. But yeah, yeah, Schecter's a quality thing, and I think my Diamond is kind of as close as I can get to a Schecter with what I have. I mean,
And so you've got just the guitar that you've got there. Is that the actual which diamond is that? Because I've never seen the guitar. I know you want it.
do you want me to grab it? It's right back here.
Sure. What I'm really doing is trying to get him to see if I can see how many times I can get him to get up and out of a seat in one live stream.
All right. So this is a Diamond Monarch,
Oh, I like that arch top on it too. Nice.
and this
Bring
is
through.
kind of like a PRS style.
Yeah, it's got a very PRS feel to it.
Yeah, and it has the cool binding right there, and I guess the LP kind of scale length to it. And these are push pulls as well. Seymour Duncan Pearly Gates. This is what got me super happy. Like, I'm so glad I won this guitar. It's exactly what I wanted because it has the humbuckers in it and good humbuckers.
Yeah.
Seymour Duncan Pearly Gates. I'm running out of space to put my guitars. What a problem to have. I don't have that many guitars.
Yeah, I've got that same problem.
Well, look,
I've got too many
we have a handful
all
of
around me
guitars
here.
in a very small room.
Hmm.
Searching for Tone has a shitload of guitars in a very big room. He's trying to get rid of them. I don't blame him, but yeah, that is as close as I can get to like a Schecter. I never heard a Diamond before, because it's just not my style of music. I was actually looking at Fender had put out Player 2 Strats and Player 2 Telecasters, and one of the Telecasters was a dual humbucker Telecaster, and I love Telecasters. It's like that's what I want to get for my humbuckers. Don't need it now, but and now that I think about it, would that look silly? Do you think it'll look silly having a Telecaster with two humbuckers in it?
No, because I've actually seen quite a few of them. For example, John Five, his Telecaster is a dual humbucker Telecaster.
Yeah. um, and maybe in the future, I don't need any more of that. Look, I am not a gas fanatic, right? I don't want gear for the sake of getting gear. Um, I have what I need. These are my tools, right? This gets the job done because you and I are like we make music. That's the main goal,
Hmm.
So I have what I need. I don't need anything else. The only thing that I pine for is that D28, which eventually I'll get if I win the lottery. But Robbie, oh gosh, man, as soon as I get some kind of financial windfall, I could fix the house. I could do anything. I could get a new car. No, I want to get myself a D28. I want to get.
Your solution is to keep growing your channel and then get Martin to sponsor it. Then
Oh
you're
yeah,
set.
dude, that would be a freaking dream. That would be a freaking dream. And the thing is with the D28s and the Martins, is that they come set up with high action right out of the box, and they don't feel comfortable to play. If you ever go to pick up a Martin and to buy one or just to play with them at the store Guitar Center, it might not feel comfortable to you because the action is high, and there's a reason behind that. They set those guitars up for bluegrass players, and for some reason,
I
I don't know why, but they like higher action, which I guess that's the main reason that they have them set up that way. But it's easily fixable by shaving down the nut, and they'll do that for you at the store when you buy it. I didn't know it
Mhm.
was a thing until they told me. They were like, "Yeah, it's set up for high. Just if you decide to get one, we'll set it up the way you like it." And I'm like, "Well, just make it like my D15," which I asked them. I was like, I wasn't acting like I was gonna buy that D28. Although I did consider it when they threw the financing option out there, but I can't get myself into trouble with it. I cannot do that.
Yeah, see, actually, the very first guitar mod I ever did was actually on that Kona, and it was lowering the action. So it was just shaving down the bridge. I was amazed at how easy it was to do, and B how easy it was to fix it when I dropped the action too low. The simple shim fixed that as well. So
Where'd you
I
put the
was very
shim?
impressed with it.
Where'd you put the shim in the nut? In
No,
the saddle?
so I was lower under the saddle. So just I cut a strip of credit card that was the exact size of the saddle. I put the saddle on the credit card, traced it, cut it right around, slipped it right in, and brought it back up to where I needed it. So
Amazing. Yeah. See, I would have the opposite problem. I would need to lower it a little bit because
well,
yeah.
mine was way too high. I mean, the action on that thing was almost 3 millimeters.
It was
And
high, but then you raise the saddle up to compensate.
no, I shaved the saddle down
Oh, you
to lower it.
shaved the
I
saddle
lowered
down.
the action too far. I started getting string buzz,
Oh,
and then I had to shim it to
I
bring
get
it
it.
back up.
All right, I was just kind of confused.
So, but the and that's the best part about it was my worry on when I was working on it was like, am I going to lower this too far? What am I going to do if I lower it too far? And I did it in stages. Like I shaved it down a little bit, put it back on. I'm like, oh, this feels so much easier to play. This is great. She brought it back down a little bit farther. I was aiming for whatever I was at 1.5 millimeters or what I was looking for. Um, got it lower, and like I finally got it, like this is exactly where I want it. I'm playing. I'm like, I have string buzz up here when I'm at this part. Shoot, I dropped it too low. And then so I was like, well, how do I fix it? Well, shim. Okay, how do I make a shim? You know, Google, and figure it out. And then it was actually way easier than I thought it would be. So
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It seems like with acoustic guitars, it's mostly. Look, I would be scared to do that. So you're a brave man because I would have messed it up. There's no way I'm doing that to my Martin guitar. I mean, it's already set up fine, but for things like that with my Sigma, I'd be too scared. I will just take it to somebody. Actually, it was just what I did. I had to get a new saddle installed on that Sigma, which is pretty nuts when you think about it. I mean, this
I need to replace the saddle on mine too, so don't feel bad.
yeah, because the bridge plate underneath was cracked and there was a whole bunch of issues. It was one of these that had the bolts on the side of the saddle where you could raise and lower the nut. Not
Right,
the nut,
right.
the saddle. You could
The
raise
saddle.
and lower
Yeah.
it, and I was missing a screw or something weird like that. And then I brought it in, and he was like, "Well, your bridge plate's messed up," so I replaced that. And he was kind of a newer luthier guy, so I was like, he said he could redo the saddle on it, and he did, but I think he didn't route enough material, so it's sitting a little high. So to compensate, he shaved down the. Now I'm getting everything kind of confused, but he shaved down the saddle,
Yeah.
and it's as low as it could possibly get. So he would have to either route down the top of the whole bridge.
You would have to shave the top part of the bridge a little bit so you could
Yeah,
lower the saddle a little bit more. Yeah.
exactly. And I he could do it, and there's ways to do it, but it's a cost benefit
But
thing.
even that, but all everything you just described there is something that you could do yourself without too much worry of it, because literally all you would just want to do on that, because the saddle is made of wood.
Hmm.
You would just sand it for a little bit, and then take your saddle, sand just a little bit off of it, and check, just see if
Yeah,
it's, are we where we want to be. And you can just do it in very, very small, very short increments, so that it's not all that. It's way less scary once, especially once you get started and you do that first pass. Like when I was sanding the bottom of that saddle, I was nervous as hell, because I'm like, I don't have a replacement for this. If I screw this up, I don't even have money to buy a cheap replacement saddle for it. But I started taking it off, and I'm like, okay, the sandpaper takes very little material off, so it's not like I'm just gonna, oops, I screwed it up. You have to actively overdo it to do that. But by the same token, it's your baby and it's your instrument, and you kind of worried about, am I going to break this whenever I'm
yeah,
doing it?
that and it's just man, the thought of shaving down incrementally and then restringing it and then taking the strings off again and just redoing that over and over. That sounds horrible.
Well,
It's
you
just
won't have to necessarily restring it,
take the
because you can just pull the pegs.
yeah. Yeah, you could put the capo on and then loosen it, and pull the peg. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't
Yeah,
sound like
that's
fun.
all I was. What on mine was just, yeah, I would just loosen. I didn't even worry about the capo really, because I just loosened the strings and popped the pegs, and then did the work, put it in there, put
I
everybody
don't.
back in, tuned it up, seeing where it was
I have
at. So
patience for a lot of things. I don't think I have patience to do that all day. I mean,
it, it is a, well, you know what? Actually, I spent maybe an hour on it, maybe, on the actual sanding part, and
mm,
then I think I restrung or put the strings back in place twice, maybe three times. So maybe an hour and a half on the whole project, to get it to where I was like, okay, this is where I want it, before I found out that I had string buzz. And then coming back to do it was
right.
even less time, because I popped the pegs, I cut that little shim out, or I pulled the saddle out, measured, cut the shim, put the saddle in the pocket in the bridge, pop the saddle back on, put the strings on, and like boom, we're ready to go.
Yeah, I mean,
So
look, maybe that's why I couldn't be a guitar tech, and I applaud people like Brant and Ted and everybody else that does work on guitars on a regular basis. I don't have the patience for it. Like I said, I have patience for a lot of things, but that's just not one of them. I could do, yeah, I could sit down and do the same thing. I don't know. I just when I change a set of guitar strings on my acoustic guitar, that to me, I love it. It's more of a ritualistic thing because I only do it once every month or two, and I take my time with it, and it takes me about 20 minutes. As I take the strings off, and I'll condition the fretboard, and then put everything out. I use fast fret to condition the fretboard, and put the strings in one by one, make sure it's tuned, stretch it out, and do it in my own process. It's kind of like a ritualistic thing for me. So if I have to do that over and over and over, it would have ruined that for me. But
yeah, well, really, this is where the whole idea of time is money.
yeah,
So if you don't have the time to do it, then you have to spend money to get somebody who
yep,
does have the time to do it. And that's okay. If that's, if that's your bag, that's great. I'm personally the kind of person who would prefer for you to at least know how to do these things,
yeah,
mentally know how to do these things, so that way you can more appropriately tell if the guy that you're taking it to work on your guitar knows what the hell they're talking about.
yeah. I mean, and the thing is, everybody starts somewhere with that. Like what I was telling you before with the whole. Um, I just we have saddle and bridge. He replaced the bridge on my acoustic guitar. It was too high, and I gave him the opportunity to work on that guitar. I mean, it wasn't an expensive guitar. He needed to learn, and I was willing to give him the opportunity to learn on my guitar because that was the first time he had to do it. And so he's a super cool guy, knows what he's doing. Awesome, awesome guitarist. He plays in a local band here in Kansas City. But he made a mistake. He made the bridge a little too thick. I'm not pissed off. I couldn't have replaced it. It looks, you saw it. It looks freaking awesome.
Yeah, it looks great.
And like you said, maybe a little bit of sanding, the finish touches and all that, but I wasn't upset at him for that. And I was actually happy because the guitar wasn't working before. I the headstock on my Epiphone. I have an Epiphone hanging up. You could probably see it in my other videos, but that headstock just completely snapped off. I gave it to that guy, and it was,
Oh no, really?
yeah. I gave it to him, and he glued it back up. Well, yeah, yeah. It's an Epiphone acoustic guitar. All right, not
Okay,
it wasn't
all
like
right.
a LP where those
Not a
headstocks
Les
fall
Paul
off.
style
Yeah,
with the breakaway necks.
the breakaway. Yeah, they make them breakaway, and they have to make sure that they snap off in a perfect way so that you can put the glue on. It'll be a stronger joint. I I still don't believe that theory about glue being stronger. I put it to a test. No, it's true. But all right, so we're coming up here. Wow, it's been an hour. So I just want to acknowledge Robbie F. So he says I am barely able to deal with setups tasks on my electrics. There's no way I could deal with sanding a bridge and you know in other acoustics. I'm with Robbie. I feel the same exact way. I'd rather pay somebody to do it and do it right than for me to do it and think it's right and then having fret buzz or whatever like that, especially on my electric guitars. I mean, there's really not much setup you could do on an acoustic guitar. We're talking about permanent changes when you're sanding things down.
It is.
You could change things back on an electric pretty easily, but knowing all that, like I got a bunch of fret buzz on my telly. I kind of have an idea on how to fix it, but I'm not gonna make my action. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I wish Brant lived next door, or you. You probably know way more. Look, you saw me put pickups in my telly, but I didn't know what the hell I was
You did
doing.
great on those pickups.
I didn't know what I was doing. So I'll be the first to tell you I don't know. I'm lucky that that came out the way it did. But um, but yeah. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and call it here and acknowledge a couple people. So yeah, we had a BCG join us for a little bit. TSA Time Surfing Alien, Robbie F still in the chat. Johnny, welcome Johnny. I don't think I said hi to you. Timothy, Baby Boy, um, let's see here. Brant showed up for a little bit. Love seeing Brant here. Brant needs to put out more videos, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, Brant is on a little bit of a reduced production
Yeah,
schedule, but I'm really waiting for him to get back
really,
into
I
full time
am too
production.
because those last couple videos that he put out when it's one of those things. He took a little bit
Oh, he
of
had
a
us slow
break.
rolling in the floor.
What's that?
He had us rolling in the floor with his
Oh
openings on
yeah.
both of his most recent ones.
When I saw his latest video come out, I was like, "Oh man, this feels like home again." You know, because he was kind of missing for a while. So, Brant, if you're out there listening still, please come back. Come back with some more videos. So, do you have anything that you want to promote coming up with your channel?
Community collab, Song and a Hat 2025 is going strong. With it, we are 1 week into the period for submitting your backing tracks, which means there's still 2 more weeks. Plenty of time for anybody who wants to join in. Let me drop a link in the chat for that.
Perfect.
We have a total of 9 entries uh, so far already. So it is having a great there we go. It's had a great amount of reception on it, and I've got lots of other folks, several other folks who are working and asking, hey, how do I do the recording and that sort of thing. So I have a feeling we're definitely we'll probably flirt with 15. We may even have as much as 20 tracks
So,
in there, but there's room for everybody.
can you give me your 30-second elevator pitch on exactly what this is and how to sign up besides the link?
Yeah, absolutely. So what you'll find in that link is it's going to tell you this is a community collaboration project where everybody is encouraged to make a backing track for the type that you would play a solo over, an improvisation solo over. There are some rules for the backing track. They have to be between 60 and 90 seconds. There's a maximum and minimum BPM that's got to be within those range.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be in a major or minor key. That's it. Otherwise, you're completely free to make whatever backing track you want. It can be as complex or as simple as you want it to be. It just needs to be a track that you could play a solo over. You have a total of 3 weeks, which the first week is already done. So you have 2 weeks to get that submitted. Once that's submitted and we're done with that time period,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take all those tracks, we'll clean them up, make sure they're all in great formats, they're all the same and ready to go. And then we will randomly send you back someone else's track for you to put your own solo over, for you to then, you've got 2 weeks to get that done, send that in. At the very end of it, this isn't a competition, this is a collab. What we're going to do, we'll do a big live stream, we'll listen to everybody's tracks and solos, and we'll just have a great time with enjoying music that we've all created together.
Wow. What would you have to say to somebody who's scared to do something like that?
So the best thing for you to do is go back and watch the live stream where I announced it. I actually did a live stream where I recorded a backing track start to finish, and it's going to be an entry into this live on stream using absolutely 100% free tools that anybody can have access to at any point in time. So if you've never done it before,
Mm-hmm.
you can just go watch that and you can actually see the process of how it's done and follow along. It's just really it's music by numbers if you want to actually look at it that way.
Really, really cool. So, the reason I asked that is because I'm kind of scared. All right, yeah, I'll figure it out. But that's good.
Seen your now I've seen your videos. You have nothing to be scared about. The biggest part on this is working. If you don't have a DAW and you
Mm-hmm.
actually haven't worked in a DAW, that's your biggest learning curve. And there are some really good ones out there that you don't even need to install. For example, BandLab. You can run it right in your browser,
Yeah,
and it's incredibly approachable. You'll be putting a track down and another track and another track, and before you know it, you'll have a song
yeah,
done before you. It's easier even than editing your videos.
yeah. Let's do that. So let me just go ahead and give my quick thing here. I have a video coming out tomorrow. It's at 11:45. I think that's what it is. It's a premiere, going over some Guthrie trap, breaking down one of his lessons. So be sure to check that out. And outside of that, it'll just be business as usual until next week. So with all that said, I do really appreciate everybody hopping on that joined, and we will see you. And I'll try to be back here in a couple weeks. So maybe we'll have Ubie on again if he's up for it. So
We'll
with
find
that,
out. You got to tune in and find out.
we'll have to tune in and find out. So with that, I hope everybody has a wonderful day.